Hey guys. Tonight we drift back in time to the Tang Dynasty, and you find yourself standing just inside the vast city of Chang'an as the sun slides down behind distant rooftops. The air is warm, dusted with the day's last heat, and everything feels suspended, like the city is holding its breath. You can smell cooked rice, faint incense, and the tired sweetness of horses that have been working since dawn. Somewhere nearby, a vendor packs away bowls. Somewhere else, a door closes softly, and then, cutting through it all, comes the first deep drumbeat of the night. You feel it more than you hear it. A low, steady thump that travels through stone streets and into your ribs. This is not music. This is time itself announcing that day is officially over. You're about to discover why Tang Dynasty night watchmen, people who had to stay awake while everyone else slept, came to love counting these drumbeats. And yes, before we get too comfortable, you should know this: you probably wouldn't survive this job for more than 2 nights. No coffee, no phone, no, just 5 more minutes. Just you, darkness, and numbers. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're awake right now, drop a comment with your location and local time. I always like knowing where in the world people are slowly drifting off. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first watch begins at dusk, not because someone felt poetic about sunsets, but because the Tang state was deeply serious about order. As the capital of one of the most powerful empires on earth, Chang'an needed a predictable rhythm. Historians agree that Tang cities followed a formal **5 watch system**, dividing the night into equal segments, each announced by drumbeats from towers scattered across the city. This first watch, just as daylight fades, was the most important. It told everyone, wrap it up. Go home. The city is changing modes. You imagine the watchman nearby adjusting his stance. He has done this countless evenings. His drum is mounted on a wooden frame, the hide stretched tight. He raises the mallet, not hurried, not slow. The beat must be just right. Too fast, and people complain. Too slow, and officials take notes. Counting begins immediately. 1 beat, 2, 3. The watchman counts silently, lips barely moving. This counting is not ceremonial, it's survival. Counting keeps him awake. Counting keeps him honest. Counting keeps the city synchronized. A mainstream historical fact slips in quietly here. During the Tang Dynasty, strict night curfews were enforced in major cities. Ordinary residents were expected to stay indoors after the first watch unless they had official permission. The drums were not just reminders, they were warnings. If you were caught wandering after the wrong beat, explanations came later, sometimes much later. But here's a quirky tidbit most people don't think about. Many night watchmen developed personal counting systems. Some grouped beats in 4s. Some whispered rhymes under their breath. Some tapped a toe in patterns. A few, according to later anecdotes, named the beats after family members. Anything to keep the numbers from slipping away in the dark. Counting drumbeats wasn't just a duty, it was a mental anchor. As dusk deepens, Chang'an changes character. The markets fall silent. The chatter fades. You hear sandals on stone as people hurry home, very aware that the drums are already counting. Lanterns appear, small floating dots of light. Dogs bark once, then settle. Somewhere, a baby cries, then quiets. You stand near the tower, and it becomes clear why dusk was chosen for the first watch. It is the most psychologically unstable moment of the day. Light and dark overlap, shadows stretch. Your body wants to rest, But your mind hasn't slowed yet. The watchman knew this instinctively. Historians still argue whether the Tang watch system was designed purely for administrative efficiency or whether it also reflected a deep understanding of human circadian rhythms. Either way, dusk demanded structure. There's also a gentle irony here. The louder the drum, the quieter the city becomes. Each beat pushes sound away, like ripples on water. For the watchman, this silence is both companion and enemy. Silence makes counting easier, but it also invites sleep. You glance at the drum again. It is worn smooth where countless hands have struck it. This drum has outlasted emperors, rebellions, scandals. Tonight, it does one simple thing: mark time. And here comes your first light joke of the evening. Don't worry. It's sleepy approved. Imagine explaining this job on a resume. Skills: standing still, excellent counting, strong relationship with drums, available nights, weekends, and every festival ever. Human resources in the Tang Dynasty was not forgiving. As the last glow of sunset disappears, the watchman finishes the opening sequence of beats. The first watch is officially underway. You feel a strange calm settle in. The city is locked into rhythm now. Everyone knows where they're supposed to be. Everyone except you, standing here, listening, counting along without realizing it. 1, 2, 3. And already, you understand why counting drumbeats might become comforting. Each number is predictable. Each beat confirms that time is moving forward at a manageable pace. No surprises, no rush, just the steady reassurance that night has a structure. The drum pauses. The watchman exhales. The city exhales with him. You don't move. You don't need to. The night has begun, and you're exactly where you should be. Word count: 1.058. You don't officially belong here. But as the first watch settles in, you start to blend into the routine. Becoming a Tang Dynasty night watchman wasn't about heroics or bravado. It was about reliability. Showing up when everyone else disappeared behind wooden doors and paper windows. You imagine yourself reporting for duty just before dusk. Sleeves rolled, posture calm, pretending you slept during the day even though you absolutely did not. The training is simple, but not easy. A mainstream historical fact drifts in as naturally as the evening breeze. Tang night watchmen were usually appointed by local authorities and drawn from commoner ranks. Sometimes retired soldiers or men considered steady and unremarkable, in other words, trustworthy. This was not a glamorous job. There were no promotions waiting at the end of the night. But there was consistency, which in the Tang world counted for a lot. You're issued your basic gear. No armor. No sword unless you're lucky or stationed somewhere sensitive. Mostly, you get a uniform robe, dark, practical, and unmemorable by design. The idea was not to stand out. You are a moving part of the city's machinery. If people notice you, something has probably gone wrong. The drum becomes your primary companion. You learn its sound, its rebound, how hard to strike so the tone carries without cracking. Older watchmen correct you gently. Too sharp, and the echo dies too quickly. Too soft, and the sound gets swallowed by walls. There is a Goldilocks zone for drums. Apparently. Here's a quirky tidbit that tends to surprise people. Some watchmen practiced their counting skills during the day by counting footsteps, breaths, or even mouthfuls of rice. It sounds ridiculous until you realize how easy it is to lose track of numbers in the dark at 3 in the morning. Miss a beat, and you don't just mess up your own count, you confuse the entire city. Your social status is complicated. You're not poor, exactly, but you're not admired either. People appreciate that you exist. In the same way they appreciate drainage ditches and boundary stones. Necessary, quiet, ideally invisible. Kids sometimes stare at you like you're part of the scenery. Adults avoid eye contact, just in case you feel like enforcing something. As you take your place, you notice how experienced watchmen stand. Weight evenly balanced, knees slightly bent. It's a posture designed for hours of stillness, broken only by counting and movement. Someone once told you that the fastest way to fall asleep on duty is to lean too comfortably. Tang watchmen learned this the hard way, usually followed by a very uncomfortable conversation with a superior the next morning. Historians still argue whether watchmen worked fixed posts or rotated regularly between towers and streets. Some records suggest rotation helped prevent boredom and favoritism. Others imply consistency was preferred so each watchman knew his acoustics intimately. You can see both sides. Knowing exactly how sound behaves in one alley could be the difference between confidence and panic when the night stretches long. You begin to understand why counting drumbeats becomes central to your identity. Counting gives the night shape. Without it, time dissolves. With it, the hours line up neatly, one after another, like beads on a string. This is not poetic, it's practical mental hygiene. A light joke sneaks in as you settle deeper into the role. Imagine explaining to your family why you're unavailable for dinner every evening forever. Sorry, can't make it. Me and the drum have plans. Somehow, that never sounds convincing. There are rules you absorb quickly. No sitting, no leaning against walls, no chatting unless necessary, and definitely no improvising rhythms. The drum pattern is standardized. You are not here to express yourself. This is not jazz. And yet, despite all this rigidity, you notice something oddly calming. The city depends on you, but doesn't watch you. You exist in a strange pocket of freedom. No crowds, no supervisors hovering, just the expectation that you will keep counting correctly. As the night deepens, you realize that becoming a watchman is less about authority and more about endurance. Your body learns the rhythm. Your mind learns to hover between alertness and calm. You stop checking whether time is passing, because the beats tell you it is. Another quiet joke drifts by, barely loud enough to wake anyone. This job is basically ancient ASMR, repetitive sounds. Low lighting, minimal movement, except if you fall asleep. Someone yells at you instead of commenting, very relaxing. You glance at the drum again. You don't resent it, you respect it. It gives you purpose, one beat at a time. And as the second sequence of beats begins, you find yourself counting without effort now. 1, 2, 3. The night is long, but manageable. The system you're working inside is older and more precise than it first appears. As you continue counting, you begin to understand that this isn't just about drums. It's about *** time itself being sliced into obedient pieces ***. The Tang Dynasty didn't trust time to wander freely. It was measured, announced, and enforced. A mainstream historical fact settles in. The Tang night was divided into *** 5 watches ***. Known as **geng. Each watch lasted roughly 2 hours. Though the exact length shifted with the seasons because the system followed darkness. Not clocks. Inside each watch were smaller units, beats struck on the drum at set intervals. You are not just marking the start of the night. You are maintaining a living timetable. You picture officials earlier in the dynasty arguing over this. Someone insists 5 watches are ideal. Someone else worries about winter nights dragging too long. Eventually, compromise wins, as it always does. The result is a system that's orderly enough for bureaucracy and flexible enough for astronomy. Your job is to keep that system audible. Counting drumbeats becomes essential because nothing else tells you where you are in the night. There are no wristwatches, no glowing numbers, no helpful voice saying, "It's 11:42 p.m." Instead, there is rhythm, and if you lose the rhythm, you lose the night. Here's a quirky tidbit whispered down through later writings. Some watchmen imagined the night as a physical object they were carving. Beat by beat, out of darkness, each strike removed a small piece of night and replaced it with order. It sounds poetic, but it's also a clever mental trick, turning something endless into something finite. Historians still argue whether common citizens truly understood the full structure of the watch system or simply responded to the loudest signals. Some believe people knew exactly which beat meant, "Go inside now," and which meant, "Absolutely do not be outside." Others think most residents just reacted instinctively. Drum equals indoors. Either way, the system worked well enough to keep Chang'an mostly quiet. You notice how the beats space themselves. Not rushed, not dragging. There's a dignity to it. Each one lands, echoes, and fades before the next arrives. This spacing is deliberate. Too close together, and the sound blurs. Too far apart, and minds drift. Your own mind starts to do something interesting. It stops racing. Counting pulls your thoughts into the present. You're not thinking about yesterday. You're not worrying about dawn. You're here, with this number, waiting for the next one. Modern psychologists would probably call this mindfulness. Then immediately write a book about it. A light joke drifts in. Because even ancient watchmen deserved humor. Imagine explaining this system to someone used to digital clocks. So, time changes length depending on the season. And you know where you are based on drums? Yes. And somehow, it works better than your phone battery at 3 a.m. As the watch progresses, you realize how forgiving and unforgiving the system is at the same time. If you're off by one beat, maybe no one notices. If you're off by many, chaos ripples outward. Shops open too early, gates unlock too late, someone gets questioned. The drum doesn't punish, but people do. You adjust your stance. Counting feels natural now. The numbers don't rush you. They arrive when they're ready. You've stopped wishing the night would hurry along. The system has trained you not to. And quietly, without ceremony, you realize why Tang night watchmen grew fond of counting drumbeats. It wasn't just duty, it was control. In a world where emperors rose and fell, where rumors traveled faster than truth, you could still trust the next beat to come exactly when it should. 1, 2, 3. The night continues, perfectly divided. You move closer to the watchtower now, and the physical world behind the drum finally reveals itself. During the day, this tower would look unremarkable, another wooden structure rising above tiled roofs. At night, though, it becomes the city's throat. Everything Chang'an needs to say after dark passes through here as sound. A mainstream historical fact settles into place. Tang watchtowers were positioned strategically so drumbeats and bells could *** carry across wards ***. Bouncing off walls and roofs. Sound was infrastructure. Before streetlights. Before sirens. Before clocks on public buildings. Sound was how a city stayed coherent. You are not guarding streets as much as you are guarding audibility. You climb a few steps and feel the difference immediately. Up here, the air moves more freely. The smells change, less cooking, more dust and wood. When the drum sounds from this height, it doesn't just travel outward. It rolls, layering itself over the city like a blanket. You imagine households pausing mid-conversation, children being ushered inside, doors sliding shut as the beat arrives. The bell matters too. In some towers, drums announced the watchers, while bells marked specific transitions, openings, closings, warnings. The two sounds were intentionally different. Drums were warm and bodily. Bells were sharp and declarative. Together, they created a sonic language everyone understood, even if no one ever sat down to learn it formally. Here's a quirky tidbit that rarely gets mentioned. Watchmen learned the personalities * of their towers. Some amplified sound beautifully, Others swallowed it. Wind direction mattered. Humidity mattered. A damp night could dull a drum's voice, forcing you to strike harder, without cracking the skin. It was less like hitting an instrument and more like negotiating with it. Historians still argue whether the placement of watchtowers was optimized through acoustic testing or simply evolved through trial and error. There's evidence for both. Some records suggest officials adjusted tower locations after complaints. Others hint that watchmen themselves quietly adapted, changing strike force, timing, even posture, to compensate for stubborn acoustics. You stand there and listen to the echo fade. It's never quite the same twice. Stone absorbs some frequencies, wood reflects others. Narrow alleys funnel sound like wind tunnels. Wide avenues let it disperse gently. Over time, you internalize all of this without naming it. Your body just knows when a beat has traveled far enough. A soft joke slips in. Because it's late and your brain deserves it. You're basically running an ancient sound system. Except there's no volume knob, and if you mess up, the city notices. The tower also gives you perspective. From up here, Chang'an looks peaceful, almost deceptively so. Rough lines merge into dark waves. Lanterns blink like tired stars. The city feels asleep, even though you know thousands of people are still awake behind walls. Your drumbeat doesn't wake them, it reassures them. Someone is counting. Someone is watching. You return to the drum. The mallet feels heavier than before. Not because it weighs more, but because responsibility has settled into your hands. You strike again, carefully. The sound blooms outward, steady and calm. And once more, you count. 1, 2, 3. The tower listens with you. You settle into the rhythm now. And it becomes obvious that the drum is only half the job. The other half happens entirely inside your head. Counting drumbeats is not busy work. It's a survival strategy. Without it, the night stretches into something shapeless and dangerous. The kind of quiet that lulls you into blinking just a little too long. A mainstream historical fact slides into place as naturally as the numbers themselves. Tang night watchmen were expected to remain *** alert and accurate for hours at a time **. Often alone or with minimal supervision. Falling asleep on duty wasn't treated as a small mistake. It meant fines, corporal punishment, or reassignment to worse posts. The system assumed you would invent ways to stay awake. Counting was the most reliable. You realize quickly why counting works better than pacing or singing. Movement exhausts you. Singing invites emotion. Counting does neither. It occupies just enough of your mind to keep it tethered, without exciting it. Each number is a stepping stone across the night. Here's a quirky tidbit that surfaces in later anecdotes and folk memory. Some watchmen deliberately ** reset their count ** at specific milestones. Even if the official count continued, they'd think, "This is my 10th cycle," or "This is the 3rd round since the wind shifted." It created layers of structure, official time on the outside, personal time on the inside. Historians still argue whether this habit of internal counting influenced broader Tang attitudes toward rhythm and repetition in work. Some scholars point to parallels in poetry, calligraphy, and even breathing exercises, suggesting a shared cultural comfort with measured repetition. Others insist it's just human nature doing what it always does when faced with monotony. As the beats continue, you notice something subtle happening to your body. Your breathing sinks to the rhythm. Your shoulders drop. The tension you didn't realize you were holding loosens. Counting doesn't just keep you awake, it steadies you. It turns the night into something predictable, almost friendly. A light joke drifts in, gentle enough not to disturb anyone. This is basically the ancient version of counting sheep, except instead of sheep, it's the entire city relying on you not to lose track. You listen carefully between beats. Silence has texture now. You can tell the difference between the silence after a clean strike and the silence after a slightly rushed one. One feels complete, the other feels itchy. Your mind prefers the clean version. You strike again, count again. The numbers don't pile up. They pass through you. One arrives, does its job, leaves. You don't cling to it. You don't rush ahead. This, you realize, is why watchmen came to like asterisk counting. It's one of the few tasks where doing exactly what's required feels sufficient. Another soft joke slips in as the night deepens. If meditation teachers charged admission in the Tang Dynasty, they'd probably just hand you a drum and say, "Stand there until dawn." The watch stretches on, but it no longer feels endless. Each beat trims it down. You're not waiting for morning anymore. You're meeting the night exactly where it is. Number by number. 1, 2, 3. And somehow, that's enough. As the counting settles into your bones, the city around you begins to speak in quieter ways. Chang'an at night is not silent, it's selective. The loud daytime sounds are gone, replaced by a thin weave of small noises that only exist when most people are asleep. Your ears sharpen without effort, the way they always do when the world stops competing for attention. A mainstream historical fact moves gently through the dark, despite strict curfews. Tang cities were never completely asleep. Certain professions, doctors, messengers, monks, midwives, were allowed limited movement at night. The watchmen listened for these approved sounds as much as they listened for trouble. Knowing the difference mattered. Between drumbeats, you hear sandals scuffing stone somewhere far off. Not hurried, not sneaking, probably permitted. You hear a cart creak once. Then stop. A door closes softly, carefully, like someone doesn't want to wake the house. Dogs shift and resettle, their claws ticking briefly before stillness returns. Here's a quirky tidbit that rarely makes it into formal histories. Experienced watchmen could often identify neighborhoods by sound alone. Wealthier wards had thicker doors, softer closures. Market areas echoed longer. Near temples, you might hear the faintest chant drifting through paper windows. Monks marking time differently than you are. Sound maps the city better than sight ever could at night. Historians still argue whether night watchmen were formally trained in this kind of listening or whether it developed informally over years of repetition. There's no manual that says, "This is the sound of acceptable footsteps." But you don't need a manual. After enough nights, your body knows before your mind does. You strike the drum again. The sound rolls out, and for a moment, everything else pauses, as if the city is acknowledging you. Then the small sounds return. Reshuffled. The rhythm holds. A light joke slips in, barely above a whisper. This is basically the original surround sound experience, except the speakers are cats. Roofs, and distant coughing, and you can't mute any of them. You notice how your imagination fills in gaps. A shadow moves, and you invent a story for it. Someone clears their throat, and you picture a sleepless scholar hunched over a desk. Pretending he's not tired, you remind yourself not to drift too far. Counting pulls you back, gently but firmly. The night sounds also change as the watch progresses. Early night has movement, late dinners, last errands, whispered conversations. Deeper night grows sparse. Each sound stands alone, easier to notice, harder to misinterpret. This is when mistakes happen. When your brain tries to turn harmless noises into threats just to stay entertained. You resist that urge. Counting keeps you grounded. 1 beat, pause. 2 beats, pause. You let the city be what it is, without narrating it too aggressively in your head. Another soft joke floats by. You're basically an ancient noise moderator, deciding which sounds are normal nighttime ambience, and which are, please investigate before paperwork happens. The air cools. Your breath fogs slightly. Somewhere, a rooster is very confused about what time it is. But thankfully, it doesn't commit to anything. You smile despite yourself. The night continues to breathe around you. And you breathe with it. You don't chase the sounds anymore. You let them pass through the spaces between beats. 1, 2, 3. Chang'an listens. You listen back. The drumbeats don't just tell time, they quietly enforce it. As the night deepens, you begin to feel how rhythm turns into authority without ever raising its voice. There are no shouted orders, no flashing warnings, just sound, arriving exactly when it should, reminding everyone where the invisible lines are drawn. A mainstream historical fact settles in with the weight of routine. Tang Dynasty cities operated under *** strict curfew laws **. Especially in major capitals like Chang'an. Once the first watch began, ordinary citizens were expected to stay indoors. Gates between city wards were closed. Movement without permission became suspicious by default. The drumbeat didn't accuse anyone. It simply made expectations clear. You imagine someone lingering too long outside, hearing the beat and quickening their steps. Not out of panic, but out of habit. The system works because it didn't need to scare people. It trained them. Here's a quirky tidbit that rarely gets attention. Watchmen were not expected to chase everyone they saw. Most enforcement happened through ** sound compliance **. If the city grew quiet after the drums, the system was considered successful. Actual confrontations were the exception, not the goal. In a way, the Tang preferred prevention through rhythm rather than punishment through force. Historians still argue how strictly these curfews were enforced across social classes. Some believe elites moved freely with minimal scrutiny. Others argue that curfews applied broadly, with only narrow exemptions. The truth likely lived somewhere in between, depending on the neighborhood, the official in charge, and how confident someone looked while walking. You feel this balance firsthand. From your position, you're not hunting wrongdoing, you're maintaining a boundary. The beat goes out, people respond, order emerges naturally, like water settling after being stirred. A light joke drifts in. Because even authority deserves humor. This is basically ancient passive-aggressive policing. I'm not saying you're doing something wrong, but the drum has opinions. Between beats, you notice how compliance feels cooperative rather than coerced. Doors close not because someone is watching, but because everyone understands the signal. The drum becomes a shared agreement. You strike it, and the city keeps its end of the bargain. Occasionally, though, you do hear movement where there shouldn't be any. A hurried step, a muffled laugh, a scrape that doesn't match the rhythm of permitted passage. You don't tense immediately. You wait. Often, the sound corrects itself, someone ducking inside just in time. When intervention is necessary, it's usually quiet, a question, a reminder, a redirection back toward home. The goal isn't drama, it's restoration of stillness. Paperwork is the true enemy of the watchman, and everyone knows it. Another soft joke slips by. The fastest way to ruin a peaceful night in Chang'an is to make it interesting. You strike the drum again, and the sound spreads outward, brushing against walls, slipping into alleys, fading gently. The city responds with obedience that feels almost affectionate. People trust the beat. They sleep because it tells them it's safe to do so. As the watch continues, you realize something important. Law here is not loud. It's repetitive. It's predictable. It works because it blends into life instead of interrupting it. 1, 2, 3. The city stays where it belongs. And so do you. Most nights pass without incident, which is exactly the point. But every so often, the quiet bends just enough to reveal something small and human. This is when you learn that the night watch isn't about catching villains. It's about smoothing edges before they snag. A mainstream historical fact settles gently into your awareness. Tang law distinguished sharply between major crimes and *** minor nighttime infractions ***, wandering without permission, lingering near closed gates, moving goods after curfew. The watchman's role, especially early in the night, leaned toward correction rather than punishment. Order mattered more than spectacle. You hear it before you see it, a shuffle that doesn't match the rhythm of permitted movement. Not a sprint, not a sneak, more like hesitation. You wait through a beat, then another. Counting keeps your pulse even. When you step closer, the figure resolves into someone who misjudged time. It happens. The first watch catches people mid-transition. Brains still half in daylight. Here's a quirky tidbit that slips through oral tradition. Some watchmen kept a small repertoire of *** neutral phrases *** designed to de-escalate without embarrassing anyone. Short, boring sentences. The kind that drain drama from a situation. The gates are closed now. The next beat has passed. Best to head home. No accusations. No raised voices. Just time. Stated plainly. Historians still argue how much discretion watchmen truly had. Some legal texts suggest strict reporting requirements. Others imply a wide gray zone where judgment ruled. Standing here, listening, you suspect the truth depended on context, who it was, where they were, and how the night felt. Law is always practiced by humans, even when it pretends not to be. The person nods, murmurs an apology that barely reaches your ears, and turns back the way they came. No chase, no paperwork. The city exhales. You return to your post. Count resuming without a hitch. 1, 2, 3. You realize how rare it is for a system to be designed around ***, not *** escalating. The drumbeat already did most of the work. Your presence is a reminder, not a threat. This is a city that prefers sleep over spectacle. A light joke drifts by. Careful not to wake anyone. You're basically customer service for time, open late, underpaid, and everyone hopes they never have to talk to you. As the watch continues, you encounter the softer edges of mischief. A cat knocks something over. A drunk sings one line and then thinks better of it. Someone laughs too loudly, then clamps a hand over their mouth as if the night itself might complain. None of this requires force. It requires patience. Counting helps here, too. It gives you a buffer between stimulus and response. You don't react instantly. You let a beat pass. Then another. Often, the problem resolves itself in that space. Time is corrective if you let it be. There's a deeper calm that comes from knowing most people want to comply. They just need a nudge, a sound, a reminder that the rules exist even when no one is watching closely. The drum provides that reminder with admirable consistency. Another soft joke hums through your thoughts. If modern cities used drums instead of notifications, half the population would sleep better and the other half would complain about the acoustics. The night grows quieter as the watch advances. The small incidents thin out. The city settles into its preferred shape. You strike the drum, feel the echo fade, and sense the invisible lines holding steady. You don't feel powerful, you feel useful, and in a long night, usefulness is comfort. 1, 2, 3. Order holds, gently. As the night stretches onward, you discover that time isn't the only thing you're counting against. Weather has its own opinions, and it never asks whether you're ready. Chang'an looks calm from a distance, but the seasons press in close when you're standing still for hours. A mainstream historical fact settles in quietly. Tang night watchmen worked ** year-round **. Regardless of season, summer nights could be thick and unmoving, while winter watchers bit through layers of cloth. There were no weather exceptions written into duty rosters. Time still needed counting. even if your fingers went numb. Tonight, the air is damp, not raining, just heavy enough to cling. You feel it on your skin, on the drumhead, in the way sound travels slightly farther and softer at the same time. You adjust your strike without thinking. Experience teaches you that humidity changes everything. Here's a quirky tidbit that doesn't make it into official records. Seasoned watchmen often knew *** which beats felt longer *** depending on the weather. Cold stretched time. Heat blurred it. Fog made the space between sounds feel uncertain, as if the city itself were holding its breath. Counting became less about accuracy and more about anchoring yourself when the environment tried to drift. Historians still argue whether Tang administrators accounted for seasonal perception when designing the watch system. Some suggest the flexibility of variable-length watches already addressed this. Others believe the system was rigid on paper but adaptive in practice. Shaped daily by the people standing where you are now. You notice how your body responds to the night's conditions. In the cold, counting sharpens you. Each number is crisp. In heat, counting slows you down, prevents frustration. In rain, it becomes a kind of metronome against chaos, steady beats while droplets scatter unpredictably. A light joke slips in. Because even soaked sleeves deserve humor. Ancient job perks included fresh air, free exercise, and exactly zero protection from bad weather. Winter nights are the hardest. You imagine him clearly. The drum skin stiff, the mallet heavier, breath fogging thickly between beats. Sound travels farther in cold air, which sounds helpful until you realize every mistake also travels farther. Counting matters more then. Precision becomes warmth. Summer, by contrast, is deceptive. The stillness invites sleep. Insects hum lazily. Sweat makes the mallet slippery. You count not just to stay awake, but to stay patient. Heat turns small annoyances into big ones if you let it. The seasons teach you something subtle. Time feels different depending on how your body feels. The watch system doesn't change, but you do. Counting drumbeats becomes the one constant you can rely on, no matter what the night throws at you. Another soft joke drifts through your mind. This job is basically a long-term relationship with the weather. And neither of you is particularly good at compromising. You strike the drum again. The sound moves outward, slightly altered by the air, but still recognizable. The city hears it and adjusts without complaint. People pull blankets tighter, windows close a fraction more. Somewhere, someone turns over in their sleep, trusting that the rhythm will continue. As the watch progresses, you stop fighting the conditions. You adapt. You count. The numbers don't care if it's hot or cold. They arrive on schedule, reliable as ever. 1, 2, 3. The seasons pass through the night, and you remain steady as the beat. Somewhere deep into the night, you notice the counting doing something unexpected. It's no longer just a tool to stay awake. It's shaping the way your thoughts move. Each drumbeat lands, and your mind follows it obediently, like a leaf drifting downstream without resistance. You don't push thoughts away. You simply don't chase them. A mainstream historical fact settles into this realization. Rhythm and repetition were deeply embedded in Tang daily life. From poetry meters to bureaucratic routines to ritual practice. The night watch didn't invent rhythmic thinking. It borrowed from a culture already comfortable with measured patterns. Counting drumbeats fit naturally into that mental landscape. You begin to see why this mattered psychologically. The night is long, dark, and full of empty space where worry likes to wander. Counting fills that space just enough to keep it from becoming unsettling. It's not stimulation, it's containment. You're not entertained, you're steadied. Here's a quirky tidbit that sounds modern but isn't. Some later commentators compared night watch counting to *** breath regulation ***. noting that experienced watchmen often breathed in sync with the beats without realizing it. Strike, inhale, pause, exhale. The body finds efficiency when the mind gives it permission. Historians still argue whether Tang officials consciously understood these calming effects or simply stumbled into them through practicality. There's no memo that says, counting will reduce anxiety, but systems don't need theory to work. They just need repetition. You notice how different this feels from idle waiting. Idle waiting stretches. It asks questions. Counting does neither. It offers the next number and nothing else. That simplicity is a relief. You don't need to solve anything tonight. You just need to arrive at the next beat. A light joke floats by. Barely loud enough to register. Congratulations, you've discovered ancient mindfulness. No cushions or incense required. Just a really big drum and zero distractions. The city seems calmer too, as if it senses your steadiness. The spaces between sounds feel intentional now, not empty. Silence becomes part of the rhythm rather than a threat. You stop scanning it for meaning. You realize this is why experienced watchmen often preferred counting to talking or pacing. Counting doesn't invite emotion. It doesn't escalate boredom into irritation. It keeps you in a narrow lane where nothing dramatic happens, and at night. That's ideal. Another soft joke slips through your thoughts. Modern sleep apps charge money for this feeling. You're getting it for free. Minus the comfortable bed. The watch continues, and you feel yourself hovering in that perfect middle state, not sleepy. Not alert, just present. Counting drumbeats doesn't fight the night. It cooperates with it. 1, 2, 3. Time passes without resistance. Somewhere between beats, words begin to drift into the night. Not spoken aloud, just remembered. Chang'an is famous for its poets. And even at this hour, their presence feels close. You don't see them, but you know they're there. Sleepless scholars. Late-night drinkers. Officials half awake with brush and ink nearby. Listening to the same drum you're counting. A mainstream historical fact settles softly. The Tang Dynasty is often called the *** golden age of Chinese poetry **, producing figures whose verses were known, recited, and remembered across social classes. Night watch drums appear in surviving poems as markers of longing, exile, duty, and time slipping by. The sound wasn't just administrative, it was emotional shorthand. You strike the drum, and the echo fades into streets where someone is awake, staring at a window lattice. To them, this beat might mean distance from home, or another hour before dawn, or simply proof that the city hasn't forgotten them. You don't know, you don't need to. The drum carries all interpretations equally. Here's a quirky tidbit that doesn't often get highlighted. Some poets reportedly timed their writing sessions to the watches, using drum beats as natural breaks. One watch for drinking, one for writing, one for rereading what they'd written and wondering why they thought it was brilliant an hour ago. The night provided structure even for insomnia. Historians still argue how literal these poetic references are. Did poets actually hear the drums clearly from their rooms? Or were the sounds symbolic, folded into memory and metaphor? The answer is probably both. In a city as large as Chang'an, sound traveled unevenly, but symbolism travels effortlessly. You feel a quiet connection forming between your counting and their words. You're doing something unglamorous, repetitive, and necessary. They're turning the same hours into lines that might outlast both of you. Neither role works without the other. Poetry needs time. Time needs keeping. A light joke drifts in. Because even reverence needs air. Somewhere out there, a poet is dramatically sighing about the drum keeping him awake, while you're dramatically staying awake to keep the drum going. Balance. The night deepens, and with it, the emotional tone shifts. Early night poems are lively, wine, friends, ambition. Late night poems soften, distance, memory, quiet regret. Your counting doesn't change, but the meaning attached to each beat does. Time is neutral, people are not. You imagine a scholar pausing midline as your drum sounds. Brush hovering, counting along unconsciously. 1, 2, 3. The beat doesn't interrupt thought. It punctuates it. It tells them where they are in the night without asking what they feel about it. Another soft joke slips by. You're basically an uncredited collaborator on half the dynasty's poetry. The watch continues, and the city feels layered now. Physical streets below, thoughts above, memories drifting between. Your role remains simple. Keep the rhythm steady so everyone else can wander safely in their minds. You strike again. The sound rolls out, familiar and dependable. Somewhere, someone exhales and keeps writing. Somewhere else, someone finally gives up and sleeps. The drum allows both. You count without effort now. The numbers are gentle. They don't demand attention. They invite it. 1, 2, 3. The poets listen. You listen too. Eventually, the night tests you, not with noise or cold, but with doubt. This is the watch where confidence thins out, where you suddenly wonder whether you've been counting correctly the whole time. It's quiet enough now that even your own thoughts sound loud. A mainstream historical fact settles uneasily into your awareness. Tang watchmen were *** held personally responsible *** for accurate time signals. Missing or miscounting beats could be interpreted as negligence, especially if it caused confusion elsewhere in the city. There was no backup system, no correction announcement. Once a beat went out, it was part of the night. You strike the drum, listen to the echo fade, and a question flickers through your mind. Was that the right number? You replay the sequence mentally. It feels right, mostly. But doubt has already slipped in. And doubt is stubborn. Here's a quirky tidbit passed down through anecdote rather than law. Many watchmen developed ** private, checkpoint, habits ** to prevent this exact spiral. A certain crack in the tower floor, a shift in wind, a distant temple bell. These landmarks helped confirm where they were in the count. External reality stitched to internal numbers. Historians still argue how often mistakes actually happened. Official records suggest errors were rare. Human experience suggests otherwise. More likely, small errors occurred frequently, but only large. Disruptive ones made it into documents. Most nights, imperfection passed unnoticed, absorbed by the city's tolerance. You feel the temptation to rush, to strike again quickly, to prove momentum. You resist. Rushing creates more mistakes than pausing ever did. Instead, you let the silence sit where it belongs. You breathe. You trust the rhythm you've been building all night. A light joke floats through your thoughts. Thin but welcome. This is the ancient version of forgetting whether you locked the door. Except the door is the entire city's schedule. You realize that counting drumbeats isn't about flawless precision. It's about ** consistency under uncertainty *. Everyone understands that humans are holding the mallet. The system survives because it's steady, not because it's perfect. You strike again. The sound feels right, not triumphant, just correct enough. Another soft joke slips in. If confidence had a sound, it would probably be a drumbeat that doesn't apologize for existing. As the watch continues, doubt loosens its grip. The numbers fall back into place. You stop checking yourself every second. Trust returns, not dramatic, not celebratory, just quietly. 1, 2, 3. The night forgives you, as it usually does. By now, the night feels familiar enough that your mind starts to wander outward. Beyond Chang'an. Beyond the walls and towers you know so well, counting drumbeats has given you space to think. And naturally, you begin to wonder how other places handle the same problem. Darkness is universal. Staying awake through it is not. A mainstream historical fact eases into view. Many pre-modern cities around the world relied on *** night watch systems ***. Though few were as rhythmically formalized as the Tang model. In medieval Europe, watchmen called out the hours. In parts of the Islamic world, guards marked time with lamps and patrol routes. Elsewhere, bells replaced drums, voices replaced beats, and sometimes, nothing marked time at all except the stars. You imagine yourself briefly elsewhere. A European watchman pacing cobblestones, announcing the hour to anyone still awake. A guard in an Islamic city listening for trouble rather than counting time aloud. A Polynesian navigator reading the sky instead of the clock. Each system reflects what that culture trusted most: voice, light, movement, or rhythm. Here's a quirky tidbit that tends to surprise people. Some travelers' accounts suggest that foreign visitors to Chang'an found the *** drum-based timekeeping deeply calming ***. Even if they didn't fully understand it. The sound was steady, predictable, and communal. You didn't need to speak the language to feel its order. Historians still argue whether the Tang Night Watch influenced neighboring regions directly or whether similar systems emerged independently. Did ideas travel along trade routes? Or did different societies simply arrive at similar solutions to the same human problems? Standing here, counting, it's easy to believe both are true. You realize that what makes the Tang system distinctive isn't just the drum, it's the *** commitment to shared rhythm ***. Everyone hears the same sound. Everyone adjusts together. There's no private time after dark. Only collective time. The night belongs to the city, not the individual. A light joke drifts in. Relaxed and slow. Imagine trying to synchronize a modern city this way. Half the population would complain about noise. The other half would set it as a ringtone. You compare that imagined chaos to the calm around you now. Chang'an doesn't argue with the beat. It accepts it. The drum doesn't compete with other signals. It is * the signal. That clarity feels rare, even precious. You strike again, and the sound travels outward. As it has all night. Somewhere beyond the walls, other cities are handling darkness in their own ways, patrolling, praying, pacing, watching the sky. Here, you count. Another soft joke settles in. Different cities, same goal. Keep everyone asleep and no one too adventurous. The thought doesn't distract you. It comforts you. You're part of something larger than this tower. Larger than this dynasty. Humans everywhere have stood awake so others could rest. You just happen to be doing it with a drum. 1, 2, 3. The world keeps turning, each night in its own rhythm. Change never announces itself loudly at first. It slips in the way fatigue does, quietly, gradually, almost politely. As you keep counting, you begin to sense that this rhythm you've come to trust so deeply won't last forever. Not tonight, not tomorrow, but eventually. Systems age, cities evolve, even the most dependable beat can fade. A mainstream historical fact settles in. Unhurried. Over the centuries following the Tang Dynasty, urban administration changed **. Technologies shifted, and the centralized drum-based night watch gradually gave way to other methods of timekeeping and security. Bells became more common. Patrols replaced stationary counting. Later still, mechanical clocks crept into public life. The drum did not fail, it was simply outgrown. Standing here, though, none of that feels real yet. The night still responds perfectly. The city still listens, but you can feel the seeds of change in small details. New officials ask different questions. Younger watchmen experiment with shortcuts. Some nights, the beats feel more ceremonial than essential. Here's a quirky tidbit that lives in the margins of history, during transitional periods. Some cities briefly *** kept the drums out of habit **. even when they were no longer strictly necessary. People slept better with the sound, even if newer systems technically worked. Rhythm has emotional inertia. Historians still argue whether the decline of drum watches was driven more by technological convenience or by changing philosophies of governance. Did rulers trust machines more than humans? Or did cities simply grow too complex for sound alone to manage? The answer, like most endings, refuses to be simple. You strike the drum again and wonder, not anxiously, just curiously, how many generations have stood where you stand, assuming this rhythm was permanent. It's a human instinct. We mistake what works now for what will always work. A light joke drifts through your thoughts, softened by the hour. Somewhere in the future, someone invents the clock and immediately makes everyone late in a completely new way. You notice how the city has learned to depend on the beat in subtle ways. Sleep schedules, guard shifts, religious routines. Remove the drum too quickly, and something feels off, even if nothing technically breaks. The rhythm has become cultural muscle memory. As dawn approaches, not yet visible, but inevitable, you sense the fragility of systems that rely on human attention. Counting works because someone cares enough to keep counting. When that care shifts elsewhere, the system loosens. Another soft joke slides by. Turns out, the real technology here isn't the drum, it's the person refusing to stop counting. You don't feel sad about the future. You feel appreciative of the present. Tonight, the drum still matters. Tonight, the beat still shapes the city. Change can wait until morning. You strike again. The sound feels a little different now, not weaker. Just older somehow, weighted with repetition. The city receives it without comment. 1, 2, 3. Even endings, you realize, arrive in rhythm. The final watch arrives almost without ceremony. There's no announcement that this is the last stretch. No special sound to mark its importance. You only know because your body knows. The air feels thinner somehow. Lighter, as if the night has been slowly exhaling and is nearly done. A mainstream historical fact settles in gently. The **** fifth watch ***. The last before dawn was traditionally the most fragile. Fatigue peaked here. Mistakes were more likely. And yet, it was also the watch that mattered most, because it bridged darkness and day. Getting this one right meant the city would wake smoothly. You strike the drum and count. Careful not to rush. Dawn is coming, but you don't chase it. Chasing makes time misbehave. You've learned that. You let the rhythm carry you instead. Here's a quirky tidbit that lingers in later writings. Some watchmen quietly preferred this final watch. Not because it was easy, but because it felt *** complete ***. You could see the work behind you and the end ahead. Each beat felt earned, not endless. Historians still argue whether watchmen experienced this moment as relief or tension. Some records emphasize anxiety, one last chance to fail. Others suggest a quiet pride. The satisfaction of having held the night together without cracks. Standing here, you suspect it was both, depending on the person and the night. The city begins to stir before it's fully awake. A door opens a fraction too early. A rooster commits to its decision this time. Somewhere, someone coughs and doesn't bother to suppress it. These aren't violations, they're previews. The drumbeat hasn't ended yet. But life is already leaning forward. You strike again. The sound feels softer now. Not because you hit less firmly, but because the city doesn't need it as much. Light is coming. Soon, time will be visible again. A light joke drifts through your thoughts. Slow and affectionate. Congratulations, you've successfully stayed up all night doing math without a single piece of paper. As the final sequence of beats approaches its end, you feel a strange reluctance. Counting has been your companion. Letting it go feels like setting something down that's been in your hands for hours. You finish the last beat. Listen to the echo fade. And allow the silence to remain unfilled. The watch is over. Dash dash dash. The sky lightens in stages. So gradual you barely notice at first. Black gives way to deep blue. Then something softer, almost grey. Rough lines sharpen. Shadows retreat. The city doesn't wake all at once. It stretches into consciousness. Unhurried, trusting that the night has been properly concluded. You step back from the drum. Your arms feel heavy now that they no longer have a reason to move. The quiet is different in daylight. It's not enforced. It's left over. You don't feel triumphant. You feel settled. The kind of calm that comes from finishing something repetitive and necessary. The city begins its day without thinking about you. And that's exactly how it should be. You take one last look at the tower, the drum, the streets below. Soon, someone else will take your place tonight. The rhythm will begin again at dusk. Steady as ever. For now, though, there's nothing left to count. Let the images soften. Let the numbers dissolve. The night has done its work. And so have you. Breathing slows. Thoughts loosen their grip. There's no need to hold on to anything anymore. Just rest. Greater than end of script. Sweet dreams.